Okay. All right. Yeah, I've not done one of these for a while. I have a free evening, and I just thought it'd be nice to kind of try something a bit different, a bit new. So, yeah, this is me walking through a completely new workspace setup, like from literally going to go through from the tutorial, like the initial screens. I'm hoping that this video will help people who are starting from scratch, who kind of don't know where to begin, what to start with, but also maybe just some inspiration of what is possible in Notion. I'll try and keep it accessible, like I'm not going to go completely crazy. This is more just for my own practice. Yeah, okay, I'm just going to jump right in. If I can remember which one it is. There we go. Okay, so when you create a new workspace in Notion, this is the screen you're probably going to see. This is just going to be an example, just me playing around. So for now, I'm going to select personal life, and then it's just for me. I hadn't even thought about what I'd want to track. It's a common use case. Okay, let's say that I want to create a list of TV shows I want to watch, and yeah, and like if I've watched them or not, what I thought of them. So let's see what Notion gives us as a template. Just curious, you know? Okay. So this is helpful for, I guess, if you're super new. Obviously this isn't something I'm going to read because I've been using Notion for too long to look at this. But let's see what it's given us in the reading list. Okay. So a bunch of different books categorized by, what have I called this one? Genre, I guess? Just category, status, reading, rating. Lovely, okay. Author George Orwell. Okay, that makes sense. I think I'm gonna start by recreating this, but for films. Because I think this is a pretty solid start for a template. So I will start by creating a new page for film list. And just to keep the pattern, I'm going to set the icon to something filmy. Film. That will do. And then just jumping back into here. So you can see that this page is a little bit different from this page. So this is just a bog standard page. It's the most bread and butter default thing you'll get in Notion, and you can just start with a blank and add things to it. This one, reading list, is a little bit different. So it's got a bit of structure to it. This one is, it's a board view of a database. So if I start here, by default, Notion lets you create pages, but then you can choose to turn it into a database, and that will turn it into this sort of knowledge storage page rather than an information display page. I'm going to try and do everything myself today. So I'm just going to start with an empty database. Oh, it's removed my title. Film list. This one. And I want something that looks a bit more like this. So to be able to keep track of which things I've watched or I'm currently watching. I guess that's not as relevant if you're doing something like a film. Okay, in that case, let's first list out a bunch of films. I shouldn't have picked films. I'm not a filmy person. And then one more. Why am I getting stuck on this? Okay. And then what else was it they said? Whether you've read it or not. So in Notion will give you, in a database, you've got whatever the title of the thing in the database is, but then you can also add properties to it. So there are so many in here, so many fancier ones that I'm not going to cover. But let's start with status. So that's tracking if something is done or not done, or if it's being done. And then edit property, not watched, you can rename this to, and then watched. And for us, I guess you could have like watching, but this isn't going to be relevant for us. So the difference between this status and, say for example, I had an option here that was a select called status, and I had the options here of like let's try this way. Not watched, watching, and watched. Come on. Watched. So you might be saying, okay, what's the difference between doing this and doing this? At this level, really not that much. Let's set the colors. So there really isn't that much of a mechanical difference between what I've got here, where something is either not watched, I'm watching it, or I've watched it. But the thing is with status as opposed to selects is that statuses have a grouping. So here you can see that there is like 3 distinct categories of to do, in progress, and complete. To do, in this case, it could be not watched, but it could also be, not sure what's going on there. Okay, in progress, watching, paused, because you could have been in the middle of watching it and something happened and you had to stop watching it. So in the view, these are all distinct statuses, but Notion will let you sort by the larger status category rather than just its status. So I will use the board to show you this. So this board at the moment is being sorted by whether or not I've watched it at all, like in the statuses I set before. But you can go into group and group by status by group, that was it. So then now it's saying that these are the things I need to watch. These 2 are in progress. One of them I will be currently watching and the other one I will have paused. And you can see the differences between those 2 by going into the triple dots at the top here and showing in properties status. So you'll be able to see that even though there are currently 2 films in progress, one of them is not being watched actively, one of them I started and didn't finish. That was a bit of a tangent, but it's something that when I learned that, I was like, oh, okay, there's actually, there's potential in that. Having statuses, but then to do in progress and complete within that status group. So bit of a diversion, but I'm hoping that was helpful. And we don't need that. So let's say, okay, I have all these films I'm currently watching. Let's go back to our reading list. They have categories. I'm not going to do that one just because I don't think it's very interesting. They have rating, which I will do. I'm just trying to think if there's a more fun way of doing that than the star selection, because this is fine. This is fine. But it's not very flexible. Let's go back to our film list. And let's say, let's give the rating a number. Numbers in Notion can be very flexible in terms of things you can do with a number to get the database item to show you something more interesting. So it's a star type number, and let's give it a description for rating out of 5, just in case I ever forget. Let's go 5. This is not going to be accurate to what I think, but yeah, let's see what interesting stuff can we do with the ratings. So I think here, if you had completed, it's helpful to see the rating here. Okay, let's try and recreate that with the number. Like I said, having the number is a bit more interesting from what you can do with it than having the star rating. It's not as easy to like select in the drop down, but it will give you a bunch of other things later on. So let's create a way of showing this as the star rating. I think that's a fun place to start. And I know I said right at the beginning I wasn't going to make it very complicated, but this might be a step up from before. So in Notion, you have a language for writing formulas. This isn't, like, it can get very scary, but I think it's really accessible if you kind of just understand the basics of it. So basically, formulas will allow you to take one thing out of a database and turn it into something else. So let's call this rating stars. And this is, if you know formulas well, this is going to seem like a really crude implementation of it, but I'm just doing this to keep it simple. So what we want to say is maybe I can collapse the sidebar, just give us a bit more space. What I want to say here is if the number in the rating is 5, I want to show 5 stars. If it's 4, I want to show 4 stars. If it's 3, I want to show 3 stars. And with formulas, there's a bunch of different ways you can get to the same answer from that problem. This is just the nature of programming things. But I think I'm just going to keep it so simple. I'm going to use what's called an if statement. So as you can see from the little documentation that's appeared here, we want to say, I'll start with if. As you can see from the documentation here, if something is true, we return one thing. And if it's false, we return a different thing. So if, for example, actually, let's just see what this will give us. It gives us all ones because it's true. It's always true. If, and this is the next step, if the number rating is greater than, so that's like if you're trying to turn something numerical into a true false statement, you can use these operators. So you can kind of say if 1 is equal to 1 or if 3 is greater than 4. And of course that will either give you a true or a false. So in this case, we're saying the rating number, if it is greater than 3, return 1, else return 2. So that should, if the rating is greater than 3, return 1, else return 2. Another small point is 3 is not greater than 3. 3 is equal to or greater than 3. It's a small detail, but you see here if I changed it to, what's the syntax in Notion? Is it this? Yeah, you can see the 3 has, or the result that's now returned for this row is 1 rather than 2 because it was before. Okay, let's keep going with our original thing. So we wanted to say that if the rating is 5, then return, what's the emoji here? Okay, and the thing is with formulas in Notion is that they need to follow a specific pattern. So this if statement will need to have 3 things in it. It needs to have the thing it's checking, whether it's true or false, what it needs to return if it's true, and then what it needs to return if it's false. So at the moment we've only got what it's returning if it's true, so we need something else for false. We can change this later. The other thing, which I'll just fix it and then explain. So when you're dealing with words in Notion, you need to put these little, like the bunny quotes around it, because, and I don't know the best way to explain this, this no here, without the bunnies around it, Notion can't tell that that is a word that you want to show. Notion will treat that as something else, and I don't have the brain to remember what that's specifically called. But basically, long and short, if you're going to be using a word, like if you're going to be using, it's called a string. So like a string of letters is a word. If you're going to be using a string, then you need to put the little bunny quotes around it. They're not called bunny quotes. I can't remember what they're called. This is the problem with doing a late night stream, is your brain's already stopped. Anyway, so let's just recap before we save it. So if the rating is equal to 5, then we show 5 stars. If not, for now, we'll just show no. There we go. The number here is 5. The number of stars here is 5. Everything else shows no. If I were to change this to 5, we would get 5 stars there. Next, what we want to do, and I'll set this back to 2, is we want to be able to show the correct number of stars depending on the rating. So, let's edit the formula. If rating is 5, then 5 stars. If we want to chain multiple things, so if we want to say, oh, if it's not this, then what if it's this? No, then what if it's this? No, then what if it's this? That's multiple if statements in a row. So you can use ifs, which is new, and it's very helpful. So ifs means you can basically have a whole chain of check if it's true. If it's true, return yes. Else, check if this is true. And if it is, return this. So that's what we're going to use here. So we want to pull in if rating is 5 stars, else if rating is 4, then can I just copy this? Yeah. 4 stars. And then you use commas to separate the different things. If you ever get lost, if you ever get stuck about how to write a formula, you can see them the whole time I've been typing here, but they come up in, I keep motioning with my hands as if you can see, they appear here. So you can scroll down this list, find the thing you're confused about, so in this case ifs, and see the exact way you need to write it to get it to work. Anyway, if rating is 3, then I have to keep looking around the microphone to see the keyboard. Rating is 2, then, and then the final one is because 1 is the final value. Oh, actually, no, let's be good programmers. If rating, actually no, let's break it first. I want to show you what happens if you break it. So here we go. We have all of our star values put in correctly. Save. Magic. Great, cool. That's what we wanted. But then let's say I have another film here. Oh, another film. Is it with a dash? No, let's use something else. Batman. But as you can see here, there's no rating. And it's saying it's 1 star. Well, I've not watched it yet. I've not rated it yet. So this doesn't work. What we need to do is we need to go back into the formula and we need to create a case where the rating isn't one of those 5 things. So let's put in rating equals to 1, creates a 1 star. And then this final thing will be what we display if we haven't given a rating yet. So for now, let's put that as no rating. There we go. Yeah, that's fixed that problem. One thing that I like to do is if I've got something in a formula that isn't an answer, so no rating isn't an answer really, it's like a default, it's a blank. So for visibility, what I want to do is I want to make this a lighter color. I don't want it to be black, that's too visible. Instead, I want to make it this kind of gray. It just fades into the background of the table a bit more. So to do that in Notion formulas, and this is where it starts getting very fun, and I've banged on about this in every other stream I've done, I think, but I love it so much, is style. So style is a formula that will take in something, a string, I guess, does it say? It says to the text. So it will take in a piece of text and it will apply Notion's styles to it. So as you can see here, it's saying that you can either make that text, like format the text to make it bold, underline it, make it italic, or you can apply the colors to it. So that would be making the background blue or making the text green. It's the same operations you get if you're using like the inline editor. So what we want to do here is we want to apply style to this no rating, and we want to make it gray with an A. And that should do it. I mean, in my head it was a lot more dramatic. Let me just see, is there a light gray? No, that's made it. There may well be a light grey that I'm missing. I could have sworn it was more dramatic than that, but either way, yeah, it's just a small detail, but it kind of, to me, it just makes it a bit less standout-y as the other values. Okay, so just to summarize where we're at, because I always get lost in the woods with these things, but I'm hoping that I kind of cover some topics every time that are a bit different or a bit helpful. So we can start by looking at the reading list we had before. And I'm trying to recreate this, but with films and kind of putting my own spin on it. So next, what we can do is we can make this into a board, which I kind of already did here. Actually, I think what I'm gonna do, because like I said, because films are a lot shorter than books, it's not that helpful to manage it at this sort of level. To me, a film is something I'm about to watch, or I've watched it. I wouldn't, for example, while the Titanic is starting, I wouldn't get out my Notion database, go in and tap watching. Maybe some people do. I absolutely do not. So instead, I want to create 2 different views here. I want to create a view of films that I want to watch with just like little check boxes, just so I can check off when I watch them, and then a list or a view of some kind of all the films I have watched and my ratings that I gave them. So let's repurpose this board view. First, I'm going to change this. And again, I love this about Notion, is that you can start with one thing and kind of shape it and mold it into something else without affecting the stuff that's there. So even though I'm about to completely rearrange this board, all of these films with all of the ratings, all of the statuses I gave them, they're going to stay exactly the same. So I don't need to worry about accidentally deleting one of them or something. So I'm going to change the name to list. I'm going to change the view to, change the layout to list. And I'm going to call this view to watch. Again, make this a bit more appropriate. Properties. Now with status, what happens when you show it is that it can be shown as this sort of list of tags that you can click to set a different one, or, and this is another reason why I love the status property, is you can show as checkbox. So I'll just cover it while I'm here. So this blank one is obviously, you've not watched it yet. This checked one is obviously, yes, I've watched it. And because before I set these two to be something that wasn't either of those statuses, it's just created them as like a little dash. But I think for this example, let's untick Alien and tick Titanic, that's fine. And you can see in the table that they have changed to watched, which is fine. This is what I want status to do, is to just be like watched or not watched. I don't want to faff around with all the stuff in the middle. But in this view, I only want to see films that I haven't watched yet. So you do that in Notion using filters. And I mean, I don't know if I need to really go into filters that much, but you can say, okay, where status is either to do, I guess we could put in progress in as well, just in case. But I don't want to include any films that have been marked as complete. So you can see here now, what was it before? Titanic and the other one, Terminator, aren't in this list anymore because I have ticked them as watched. If I were to also say that I watched Jaws and tick it, it's gone. But they haven't been like removed or deleted. They are still in this database. It's just that in this view, you can't see them anymore. So just to really showcase that, if I unticked all of these, they would appear in the list again. So now we have a list of films that I have not watched yet. Then let's create another view of films that I have watched and what I rated them. And I'm going to use gallery to do that. So let's see. Watched. And then, no, fireworks. So in gallery, typically, this view is great for if you had like a big image that you wanted to show here, which we can do in a bit, but for now, I'm not going to pay attention to that, so you're just going to have to deal with the big grey boxes. I can also set this to small and hide the page icon. I always hide the page icons, I'm not sure why. They just look nicer without all the icons in. And then I also want to side peek. Yeah, that's fine for now. Wait, it's a page cover. So this view at the moment is showing every film again. So what I'm going to do is filter like I did before on status, and I want the ones where they've been completed. Let's go back to the to watch view and just check a couple. So then in watch you can see the ones that we have just ticked came up here. What we want to see now is we want to see the rating that we gave it before. If we just ticked or just showed this one, it would just show us the number. That's not that helpful. Whereas if we showed the stars we made, it's the it's kind of the same view that we had on reading list. Reading list here. Yeah, It's just a grey background, which is the only difference. And then let's say I wanted to know over time what my favourite films were. I have the number rating, so what I can do is I can do a sort, which again I don't really feel like I need to explain how sorts work. And you want to go off of the rating, because remember, rating is the number, and then rating stars is the picture of the stars. So if you go rating descending, then it will show you, as this fills up, it will show you all the films that you've watched, the rating that you gave them. Yeah. Let's see what else was missing from reading this that I would want to put in notes. I mean, yeah, it's kind of self-explanatory. When you open a film from here, you can add any notes, like your favorite parts or whatever. But I think the most helpful thing is being able to have these different views. I mentioned before that if you wanted to make like a proper visual library with it, gallery is good for doing that because it has this big space up here where you can put a picture. Let's do it with Alien. So you can add a cover, and either you could go onto like, I don't know, Google Images and download the picture and then upload it into here. You could grab the image URL from the website and put it in here. Notion's got like a bunch of open source images, not open source, maybe you can use these images without having to credit them. And then also there's Unsplash, so this is kind of like a royalty free high quality image library. So if I just put in like Alien, okay, very good. So then you can see in this film list, this now has a thumbnail on it. Let's do the same with Terminator. Go to Unsplash. That one's terrifying. Okay, we'll use this. It's horrible. Oh, I don't like that. Okay, Titanic, add a cover. Picture of the boat. I'm pretty sure that's not the Titanic, but right. Yeah, so you can see how as you add films into this database, then you check them off when you watch them, and then give them a little rating. Over time you will start to build up this collection of watched films. I'm using the free version of Notion at the moment, so my knowledge gap's a bit thin on what we'll be able to do next, but let's see, because what else do I want to do? Okay, you know what? Let's go a bit silly. Reading list. I know I dismissed before category, but I think we can do some fun things if we do put a category in. So let's go back to our film list. Let's go to table and add in. Oh, it's already suggested genre. That's nice. Multi-select, that'll do. Oh no. So my terrible film knowledge comes in. Let's go fantasy. Titanic's a romance, right? Action. And then this one is like action horror? Thriller? Oh, I'm gonna be in so much trouble. Okay. And then Jaws is a thriller. And then Batman is action. And let's just say fantasy as well, for the sake of having a bit of a mix here. Okay, so, and let's also, let's set all of these to watch just so I can show you what's going to happen and give them all ratings. 3. Actually, yeah, just for a bit of difference. Okay, so what you might want to do is, let's say you had like a whole bunch of films in here. You might want to know what your favorite genres are, like which types of genre you rate higher. So we can do that because instead of using the drop down with the star emoji, we've given it a rating number, and numbers mean that we can use charts. So let's create a new chart, and let's create, what's a good chart to use here? I don't know about charts to do this properly. Okay, let's just call this favorites, or I don't know, actually let's call this ratings and give it the star for consistency. Okay, so what we want is we want to be able to see across the genres what the average rating is. So along the bottom, the x-axis, we want to show the genre. You will note that there are 3, 5, 6, 7, 8 bar tallness here, but then in the table there are only 6 films. That's because 2 of them have 2 genres, so they are counted once in each. I don't know if that's scientific, but it's fine. And we also want to omit 0 values. We don't want to show anything that hasn't got a genre assigned to it because we care more about the genre. And then up the y-axis, we want to show the rating, and we want to show the average. So let's say you had 3 action films. One of them you'd rated poorly and one of them you'd rated really highly. You want to know that your kind of average thoughts are in the middle. So that's what average will do. I suppose you could also show median, but we don't have enough in here to kind of make it distinct. I'll show median, just why not? Yeah, that's fine. You can also, if you wanted to, if you wanted to keep it as whole numbers, you can set the decimal places to 0. But I think having that little bit of, wiggle either side is good. And then colors, I don't know, let's go purple. That's not helpful, is it? Let's go colorful. There was a way to group by name. Can I do that? No, that's not helpful, is it? No. Group by... We don't have to group by anything, actually. That's fine. Okay, so that, in a nutshell, is charts. That was an absolute tumble through what charts can do. But basically, this is information I probably wouldn't have known from looking at this view here. Is, okay, so generally, what's my opinion on the different genres? You can't really do that calculation in your head here. Whereas if you go here, you can be like, okay, generally I rate fantasy quite high, not a fan of thrillers. But then with charts, is there anything else I can do? You can also say, genres. Oh, is it because of the free limit? Okay. I suspect on the free, yeah, you've used this one free chart. That's fine. Just for now, we can play around with the one we've already got. So let's say I want a breakdown of the different genres I have watched. Each slice represents count. So here you can see, can I hide the center value? Yeah, I don't need to know how many films I've watched really. So I can see here that I have like 37.5% of the films I've watched have been action films. Yeah, this kind of charts is great. Like charts is really helpful to use in other spaces in your Notion workspace. So if you had a dashboard view of everything that was going on in your workspace, like how many films you'd watched, how many books you'd read, it's really great to be able to compile all of your different charts in one space. But I think individually, you can see I've kind of hit the limit of where I think I can be helpful here. Let's just take a look one more time at our reading list, and then I'm going to think of something more interesting to do with both of these. We've got categories, completed, that's fine. Watched, yeah, that's absolutely fine. I think in here, I'll set a couple more to not watched, just so we can do the next thing. And then just on this one, just so it's a bit more visually, there's a bit more going on. I'm also going to set the genre. Oh, here's a fun thing. If I wanted to, like, say I knew that I wanted to watch a thriller, but I had like a list of tens and tens of them here. What I can do is I can go to, I'm also just realizing that my camera is blocking a lot of this. I can go into group, and I can say to group by genre. So this will categorize your film list by the genre. Again, you can see that because Alien has been tagged as both an action and a thriller, it appears in both groups. But I guess I don't need this for now. I'm okay with just the label. So that's great. Okay, so now we have a reading list, we have a film list, but having to jump between these two is like, it's fine, you can do that. But if you had a single page to be able to bring these things together, that would be super helpful. So let's create a new page and let's just call it home. Let's add a little house. And let's just put a nice cover on it, that'll do. Okay, so what we have, before I explain the difference between databases, so film list is a database and reading list is a database. And now we want to create a page called home. And a page, like I said before, is just a blank slate where you could put a bunch of things in it. What we're going to do is we're going to put film list and reading list into home, and we're going to do that using something called linked view of database. So these are magic. So good. So you can see when I bring in a linked view of a database, I can choose to bring in data from somewhere else. So to start with, I'm going to show you. I can bring in the information that I have on reading list, and I'm going to also bring in that view that Notion's already created for me. This is familiar, right? But this is connected to this. So if I updated one thing here, and I go back to home, it will update it here as well. And that is magic. That is great. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tidy this up a little bit, because I don't think I need to see all of this on my home screen. I'm going to hide the title, and I'm going to rename this to books and put a little icon next to it because we love icons. Let's put a bookmark, actually, that's good. I'll call this reading. And then what I want to just show the books that I'm currently reading. So what I can do is I can I'm not going to use the board layout because I don't need the columns to move things between. I'm going to go back to gallery view, which, yeah, like I showed you before, it's just the cards. We don't need to see the page content because none of these have covers on them. Yeah, medium's fine actually. And then open pages in side peek. I just love a side peek. And I'm going to leave the page icons on this time because Notion's already given me some. Properties, I want to show, why not show all of them? Fine. I don't need to show status because what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter this by status reading. So I only want to see the books I'm reading at the moment. As you can see, it's only showing me George Orwell, 1984. So that is a filtered, linked database view of my reading list, and it's only showing me books that I'm currently reading. Like I said before, all the other books are still in there. They're all there ready whenever you need them. But if I'm coming to home and I just want a snapshot of what's going on right now, I can see that here. Let's do the same with films. So again, you want a linked view of database, and I'm going to select film list, and I want to select to watch. These are the films I haven't yet seen, the films I know I want to watch. I'm going to hide the database title, and I could even rename this actually to films to watch, and then make this something more filmy. There we go. So now on my home, I don't need to go into either of the other pages. I can just come straight to home, and at a glance I will be able to see, okay, this is what I'm reading, this is what I'm planning to watch. But it's not looking very, it's just a list of things at this point. I'm sure if you're here, you have probably also seen some very beautiful looking Notion dashboards, you know, with all the different widgets and pictures and GIFs and all sorts of things. That is possible. Of course it's possible, someone else has done it. But I think when you're starting to use Notion, it's easier to stick with the basics and kind of build out as you get more comfortable. So I'm just going to show you a couple of things I show everybody when I'm talking about making layouts in Notion. So the first thing you can do in Notion is create columns of different content. So how you do that, let's just create two objects here, or two blocks. That's kind of what Notion calls these blue square things here. They're called blocks. So a block can be some text, it can be a picture, it can be a linked view of a database, but you refer to all of them as blocks. So here I've created two blocks, column A and column B, and to put them next to each other, really, really easy. You just hover over the one you want to move until these six dots appear, and it'll say drag to move. So we're going to drag it to move it, and you can reorder it in the page. And what you can do is if you drag it to the side of another block, it takes a little bit of practice to figure out where the side of other blocks is, but then you can drag it to the side of A here. And what it's done is it's put these two in a single block that has two columns in it. So now under A, if I wanted to move this under A, I can drag it into here, and it will have two things on the left, two things on the one thing on the right. The advantage of doing this is that on mobile, when you're viewing this on your phone, the order will go column A, under A, column B. So it'll kind of do like a little zigzag across. So what's the other thing I wanted to share? Yes, callouts. So callouts are a way of highlighting someone's attention or drawing someone's attention to something. So call out make writing stand out, and by default they give you this kind of plain looking grey one. Let me just show you what it can look like if you choose to use it this way. So something friendlier. Smile. There we go. Making it color. And then you could be like, there is free ice cream in the lobby today. Something. So these are intended as when someone lands on a page, look at this first. Look at this call out first. It's usually for things like emergency information or like, oh, welcome to the page, here's how you get started. But Notion has realized that people were using them for layouts and decorative purposes. So you can, as you can see here, create a blank box to put other things in. So let's get rid of the happy ice cream one and then move our things into this call out just to show you. And you can drag any block inside as well. Let's add a header. I think I might have skipped over that, but it's something that was in the introduction document, so I don't feel bad about it. If you go /, you can access all of the different basic blocks in Notion. There's so many in here. You probably won't use a lot of them day to day. The ones I use most often are heading 2 and text, I think, and linked views. But here, let's just add a header just to show you. So you can see that this call out has become a container. It's become a container for a bunch of other different stuff. And as before, what you can do is you can have them side by side. So now you can see you've got stuff on the left, stuff on the right, and each thing is in its own nice little box. But then what's very cool, at least I think it's very cool, is you can add your linked database views into here. And I'm not sure why that's so... Either way, actually, let's see if that's just a bug or if it's like... No, okay. But yeah, so you can start to see how over time, as you build out these different things for yourself, these different data... Okay, my methods for using Notion almost always is create a database that keeps everything in it. So create one database for all your films, one database for all your books, and then pull that into other spots. So if you wanted to make a dashboard for things you're going to do at home, pull in databases from other places. If you're going to make a holiday planner and you want to see which books you haven't read yet so you can take them on holiday with you, pull in the data from the reading list. Don't remake things. Find nice ways to store them and then pull them out where you need them. So this, you could even clean this up completely. And this looks pretty bare bones, like, I'll admit. I haven't used any colors, I haven't, like, let's see, maybe you can recolor this to green, recolor this to pink or something. This is annoying, I'm not sure why it's been doing that. But yeah, that's kind of a really, really sloppy beginning of kind of taking Notion's really bare bones templates. So you have a little page to help you with the key information. You have something that you can kind of see how it's been made. You can try making something on your own. I got a little bit crazy with formulas here and charts and things, but I also hope I kind of showed you that it's not a million miles away from your first hour in Notion. And then I kind of showed you how to pull those bits of information into its own view. I guess, so I think if there's anything else I'd want to do. No, I don't think so, actually. I think that's it for today. I want to do more of these, and I want to do them in a more structured format. I want to like tell people beforehand that I'm going to go live. But I love getting suggestions from other people of what to cover. I love when people send me their templates or their workspaces and I get to like tidy them up and kind of walk through my logic. I'm hoping to find more time this year to do that. But yeah, I think as well, it's helpful to find things that aren't curated, that aren't polished, that aren't already perfect and scripted. Like just watching someone go from 0 to 10 or 0 to 1 even is like, I want to see every little blip, every little tangent, which is kind of the point of me doing these. But if you have any questions or requests or any questions, you can kind of know where to find me. Like I've linked all my stuff on this channel. I'm around on the internet. You can probably find me. But yeah, this has been nice, very chill, very improvised. But I hope this inspires you to try Notion if you haven't already. I hope it inspires you to fiddle around with your workspace if you're feeling up for that. And I also hope to do more of these. But yeah, thanks if you have watched this. If you plan on watching this. If you're here, you've watched it. But yeah, thank you very much. And I'll probably see you in another one in the future. So yeah, bye.